This is section 8.2. We're going to do some monitoring progress questions together just so you can see what it looks like when I do them. So we're going to go back to example 1 and we're going to graph an equation where it's just x squared plus c, where the c is going to affect it. I'm going to go down here and do monitoring progress number 1, g of x equals x squared minus 5. So I put that on my paper over here and I'm going to show my work. So in order to graph this, I'm going to make a t-table of values. I'm going to have my x's and my y's. And again, I'm going to have 5 spaces in my t-table. And I'm going to put 0 in the middle for my x's. I'm going to go down by 1, so -1, -2, and up by 1s, +1, +2. Let's fill in the t-table. So when I plug in -2, -2 squared is 4. 4 minus 5 is -1. -1 squared is 1, minus 5 is -4. 0 squared is 0, minus 5 is -5. And then I can keep going, but I know these two numbers should just be symmetric with these two. 1 squared is 1, minus 5 is -4. 2 squared is 4, minus 5 is -1. Remember, I can check these values by using my graphing calculator. So I'm just going to remind you, you can do your graphing calculator here. Remember, you go to y equals. Type your equation into y equals x squared minus 5. And then you hit second, and then above the graph button it says table. Okay, I can see that my numbers I got in my graphing calculator match up with the numbers I got here. So now I can take these values and I can plot them on the coordinate plane. So I'm going to use a piece of graph paper. If you don't have graph paper, that's okay. So on my graph paper, let's draw my axes here. And I'm going to go by 1s on both of my axes just because these numbers are all pretty small. Okay, let's plot these points. We're going to start at -2, -1. Then -1, -4. 0, -5, 1, -4, and 2, -1. And we're going to connect these points with a smooth curve and it forms this symmetric parabola, and I put arrows on both ends. Okay, now I want to compare the graph of this graph to the parent function. And our parent function I don't have on here, but it normally has a vertex here at 0, 0 with our parabola. So if I look back at the equation, there is no a value here. Remember that your parent function is y equals x squared, and our new function that we're working with is y equals ax squared plus c. So this equation doesn't have an a, or really the a is 1. When the a is 1, it doesn't change how the graph looks. So I don't need to say anything about the a. But our c value here, our c value is -5. Because the c value is -5, that's causing our graph to do a vertical translation down 5 units. And look at our graph here, you can see that the vertex is down here at 0, -5. It should have been at 0, 0. So this is a vertical translation 5 units down. And that's monitoring progress number 1. Let's look at another example. We're going to look at monitoring progress number 3. So in number 3, now we're going to include the a value in here. So we're looking at number 3 here, g of x equals 2x squared minus 5. So now we have an a and we have a c. So let me write down the equation here, number 3. We have g of x equals 2x squared minus 5. Okay, I'm going to start off the same way. I'm going to make a t-table of values with x and y, and I'm going to have 5 spaces with 0 in the middle. I'm going to go straight to using my calculator just because it's faster. Let's go to y equals, and let's put a 2 in front of that equation. And we're going to see how this is going to change our numbers in our table, 2x squared minus 5. Let's do second table. And let's fill in our numbers. -2 is 3, -1 is -3, 0, -5, 1, -3, and 2, 3. Okay, let's graph this on our coordinate plane. And again, I think I'm gonna go by ones just because these numbers again are pretty small. Let's set up my coordinate plane here. Okay, let's plot these points on the coordinate plane. I have -2, 3. I have -1, -3, 0, -5, 1, -3, and 2, 3. And let's connect this with a smooth curve forming our parabola. Okay, now we're going to compare this to the graph of the parent function. And you can even see how 1 and, sorry, this is number 3, not number 2. 1 and 3 differ. This one had the -5 and so does this, so our vertex is still doing a vertical translation of down 5, but look at how much narrower this graph is, and it's more narrow because of the 2 in front. So let's talk about the transformation. Since our A is 2, since the A is positive, both of our parabolas point up, so there was no reflection in this problem. But because 2 is greater than 1, this is a vertical stretch by a factor of 2. Let's talk about the C value. Again, our C is -5, so that's the same as the last problem. This is a vertical translation of 5 units down. And that is monitoring progress 3. Let's look at one more like this. We're gonna look at monitoring progress 4. So I'm getting this from the textbook here. H of x equals -1/4 x squared plus 4. Okay, we're gonna start off the same way. Let's make a t-table of values. So we're gonna have our x and y with 5 spaces. 0 is in the middle. Now this time, because it's a fraction in front of our x squared, I don't think I'm gonna go by ones because then I have to deal with decimals. I think I'm gonna go by 2's so that I can work with this 1/4 here. If you pick a number that's divisible by the denominator, that's gonna be helpful. You could go by 4's also, but I think I'm gonna go by 2's. So let's go down -2, -4, and up to 4. Let's put this equation into our calculator and let's see what the table looks like. So -1/4 x squared plus 4. Let's hit second table and let's see what we have here. -4 is 0, -2 is 3, 0 is 4, 2 is 3, and then 4 is 0. Now you don't have to use your graphing calculator to get these. Remember, you can take these x's and plug them into the equation one by one to find these, but I think using your graphing calculator is a lot faster. Okay, let's take these values and let's plot them on the coordinate plane here. So this is number 4. And again, I'm gonna go by ones on my coordinate plane because these numbers are pretty small. Okay, let's plot the points. So we have -4, 0, -2, 3, 0, 4, 2, 3, and 4, 0. And here's our parabola. Nice U shape, put arrows on both sides. Okay, now a couple things are going on with this graph here. Notice that the graph is pointing down, and that's because the A value here is negative. Also, look at how wide this parabola is, and that's because this number is less than 1. Look at where the vertex is. Now the vertex is above the origin up here at 4, and that's because of this 4. So let's talk about the transformation. So since our A value is negative, it's a -1/4, What that means is that this is a reflection over the x-axis. And again, that's why it points down, because it flipped over the x-axis. It was pointing up, now it's pointing down. Now we're gonna look at the value of A. Forget about the negative, because we already talked about that. Let's just talk about the 1/4. So since 1/4 is less than 1, that's going to be a vertical shrink by a factor of 1/4. Finally, let's talk about our C value. Our C value is 4, positive 4. So that means it's a vertical translation up 4 units. And that's monitoring progress 4.